God with a capital G is unknowable. In other words, the essence that we call, naming it God with capital G, is unthinkable, unreachable, unknowable. And why is that? And if this is the case, how do we supposed to comprehend the phrase that God is known through his own self? What does that really mean? Whenever I think about that, and I do think about it quite often, it's just it's just fascinating. Now we're going to find out by the end of this recording in a few minutes that it is really, truly speaking, to be honest, it's a waste of time to think about this subject matter. And I have to say subject matter because it is a concept after all. There is no essential reality behind it that we have any access to whatsoever. Let's think of an original entity, something that it is original. It is not a duplicate, it's not a copy, it's original. However, if we go ahead and make copies or duplicate that original, no matter how perfectly it's done, compared to the original, they're not original. The copies are copies. It could be a fantastic copy. It could be as close as possibly can to the original, but is it the original? Never. Hence the word original and duplicate. So it's not a matter of degrees that separates the original from its duplicates. It's not a matter of perfection, degrees of perfection. In other words, it's not a relative term here that we are looking for. But we cannot touch anything that is not relative. So we are trying to understand an absolute essence using relative terms, which is quite ridiculous and funny. But let's continue delving into this business and try to understand it better, understand why we are incapable of making any sense out of the absolute essence. And even when we say absolute essence, what do we really mean? What does it bear? What type of bar does it have? What kind of weight does it carry? What kind of weight does it carry, I should say? The original and the copy. Relatively speaking, the imperfection of the copy is always established in comparison to the perfection of the original. In this sense, the degrees of perfection make sense. That means no matter how remote in future, no matter how difficult, how impossible it may seem there is still an opportunity and a possibility in the existence, in the world of reality, or in the reality of the world, of all the worlds, that one day this imperfection will reach the degree of perfection. There is a possibility. Logically speaking, rationally looking at it, there is a possibility. Why? Because there is a relation between the relative or the imperfection in the relative and the perfection also in the relative. Because the perfection that is not in the relative, not only we cannot understand it, comprehend it, no matter what, it's not even, we cannot even refer to it. It's impossible. What I'm just telling you right now, what I'm verbalizing, makes no sense when we are talking about a oneness, a singularity in absolute. So for us as human beings, be it in this world, this earthly planet, or in the spiritual realm, no matter where we are living in the contingent realm. We are living in the world, in the created world, created by God, with a capital G. But our concepts, our comprehensive ability, anything that we have access to already is bound and limited in the contingent realm, in the created world, in the created realm. So, there is nothing beyond the created realm. Our concepts, our reach, are always within the created realm. So how could we reach for or hope to reach for beyond the created realm? What is that? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not a matter of degree of perfection. No. Relative degrees of perfections are, even in theory, if not practically, even in theory, just in theory, it's reachable, it's possible. But when we are conceptualizing an absolute oneness, we cannot realize any relation between that oneness, that singularity, and anything else that supposedly is created through that in that singularity, that absolute essence. So any type of relativism, any relationships in our mind related to the absolute essence, singularity, oneness, fades away because it does not exist. What exists that we can call as perfection should not be called absolute perfection. No matter how remote the possibility of one day reaching that level of perfection, nonetheless, it is understood in relative terms. Why? Because the power of intellect, our faculty of intellect, even above that, other channels of knowledge. For one, let's say in the writings, it's referred to as heart, which is above our mind. So all the limitations that we see, perceive in the world of mind is non-existence and overcome in the world of heart. When we know through our heart, it's independent of the instrumentality of the faculty of intellect. What we know through our mind is through the instrumentality of our intellect. So, referring to the relative stations, degrees of perfections between the created realm and the realm of God, still, for us, when we are asked to know God through knowing ourselves, this is a relative equation. This is a relative description. It's defined through its relationship between the created realm and the realm of God. Anywhere in the writings, mention is made of the absolute essence. It's only for a reference, nothing else. It has absolutely no meaning that we're capable of understanding, impossible. And this is, you have to remember, all the scriptures are written for us. We are being educated through the scriptures, through the holy writings, revealed by the manifestations of God to educate humanity throughout the ages. So if this word is not even comprehensible, then it cannot have any educational value whatsoever. So where is the value then? The value is only in the relative terms, not the absolute. The absolute is something that is, as it says itself, is unreachable, inaccessible, unknowable. So what's the point? In fact, Abdul Baha, somewhere in his talks, he refers to, or maybe in his tablets, I'm not exactly sure, that to think about these matters that we have no business thinking about, and I'm adding this one to it myself, not only it's a waste of time, it's dangerous. It's dark. He uses the word, I think the phrase dark in translation when it's translated. Interesting. So the original is untouchable. Original, I'm going to use this word that it's probably very controversial, does not exist. Now, existence is also relative. So to go beyond existence, can we still apply the word existence? Probably not. It's beyond existence. It has no relationship with the existence. So when we read in the writings that existence is an emanation of God, the essence, is it going to help in any way? Is it going to expand my horizon, my understanding capacity? No, it's not. It's only a warning that you don't even want to contemplate going any further into this. Not even that, even more than that, not that you don't want to, you cannot, Because you've been created in this way. You're equipped, not being able to go any further. Now, this is what I, as a human being, can obtain and gain from this concept of the absolute and the oneness essence, or the essence of oneness in absolute terms, which really makes no sense whatsoever. Everything is relative. Everything is understood relatively speaking.